That's exactly why we like to refer people to Sean, because he has the expertise, and we know that whoever we refer to him, they're going to be taken care of properly. So Sean, are you ready for me to interview you?
For the lovely introduction. I do appreciate it.
Oh, well, my pleasure, Sean. Well, let's get right to it, Sean. We want to know as much information from you as possible. We have some readers on the line. They're dying to get some tips about the Cleveland market. So first of all, let's start off with, how did you begin your investment career?
I guess I started off a little bit of Irish luck, Linda. Kind of grew up in a part of Cleveland known as Tremont. It was a bit of a rougher section of town, so much so that when I was 17, my parents decided to move. I don't know why they waited so long, but they did. Gangs were moving in and things like that. So we moved, but my parents still owned the property. And my father tried to manage them from afar. It didn't work out too well. Actually, one of the properties burnt down. They were on the same lot. The other one was, vandalized pretty severely. So I was at college. It wasn't up to my standards. Just kidding. So I came back home, and my father decided, listen, obviously you're not going to be a rocket scientist, so maybe I can get you on the right path. And he basically gave me the parcel of land that was vandalized and burnt out. It took me about 3 years to renovate them because I used my own funds to renovate the houses, although I didn't get them for free. I mean, it cost me a fortune to renovate them. But over the course of time, the area, these houses were in kind of change where the local artisans started moving in, restaurants started to open, coffee shops, and the area kind of turned relatively quick. I ended up selling those properties, making a pretty good buck on them, and basically just kept going from that point on. So, I like to say, basically I got pretty lucky. If I bought in a different section of the city, or, if I grew up in a different section of the city, maybe it wouldn't have turned around and I wouldn't be in the position I'm in today. But basically that's kind of how I got started. Something bad turned into something good.
Wow. That's fantastic, and I'm sure that you learned so many valuable lessons, not only from those first deals that you did, but from all the other deals that you've done since. So can you share some of the most valuable lessons that you have taken away from, the 20 years plus in the real estate industry?
There's so many, Linda. Like any business, you learn over, you're going to learn from your mistakes, hopefully, else you shouldn't be in business. I would think the most important thing that I have learned is purchase in the right areas. I know when I started, I had limited amounts of funds, so I would have to purchase in the less desirable areas and really, really work those areas. But it was a tremendous amount of work, and some of the properties I actually lost money on. Now I'm fortunate enough that we can buy in, the nicer sections of the city, and it makes a world of difference. Our vacancy rate is, if you're buying in the more desirable areas, your vacancy rate's going to be much lower. Vandalism rate's going to be, almost non-existent. It's just a completely different market. My advice is really just to buy in the best area you can afford, because what looks good on paper is not always accurate. When most of the time when people are offering a 18-20% return, that's usually in the worst section of town, and it's true on. It's not true. It looks good on paper, but that's about as far as it goes. So the biggest thing I learned is really to buy in the better areas.
So important. I've personally made that mistake myself once, and I thoroughly agree with you. Location is so important, especially for the long-distance landlord that is so far away. They certainly want to buy in the best area of town that they can to avoid as many, to avoid problems.
Yeah, and I think to expound on that, Linda, even if you are from out of town and the management company is just completely inept and they're not doing their job, as long as you're in a decent, a predominantly owner-occupied area of the city, you're okay.
Right.
Now, flip that around. If the management's completely inept, and you're in the rough part of the city, guess what? Your place will get vandalized, and that money you invested, if you bought a house for, I don't know, $15,000-$20,000, you basically lost that money.
Wow.
You know, in Cleveland, not only did you lose that money, you'll get fined by the city on a regular basis, and it's going to cost you a lot more money. So,
wow.
Really, you know, and I hear the horror stories every day because we're in the business, and as I'm sure you do as well.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of investors just buy, you know, based off a number, you know, the lowest number possible. Geez, I can go to, well, you can go to parts of Cleveland, you can go to Detroit and buy a house for $5,000. Well, we all know you get what you pay for.
Absolutely, absolutely. And how is the Cleveland market doing at this time, Sean?
It's actually fantastic. Currently, there's over $5 billion in new construction.
Wow.
There's a new casino that was just built, new riverfront development, new medical mart, new convention center, Interbelt Bridge, Cleveland Clinic's growing at a rapid pace. You know, every single suburb that we invest in, there's new construction, whether it's new schools, new retail, shopping strips, residential. I mean, you really can't go anywhere in Cleveland and not notice new construction.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of people don't, you know, you think of Cleveland as an old manufacturing Rust Belt city. It's not that at all. And that's why, you know, I tell all the investors, take the time, fly in the city. You can fly in and fly out in the same day. And, you know, it's definitely, especially for people from the U.S., it's not what they, you know, think. I mean, it's amazing. It's a great city, and it's not a Rust Belt manufacturing city at all, just the opposite.
Wow, well, the city is sure pouring a lot of money into developing the area.
Yeah, and then most of that money, Linda, is private money.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, almost the majority, I'd say 90%. The only public money would be our Interbelt Bridge and our convention center. Other than that, the medical marts, that's privately funded. The casino is privately funded, the riverfront development, and, of course, all the new construction elsewhere besides the new schools. That's all privately funded. So, yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, tell me about some of the recent deals that you've come across.
I mean, we do probably, you know, anywhere from 5 to 10 deals a month. They range, usually our lowest price house is, about $55,000, and that's in a really nice suburb, you know, and on any of these streets, anywhere we buy, you cannot drive down one street in the whole city to see a board on a window. It's just non-existent.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and that's the kind of areas we want to buy in predominantly owner-occupied areas. That's what we key in on.
Yeah.
That's our investment criteria. Very conservative, very safe, and you'd have an exit strategy. We do have one of the recent examples. It's under contract currently. It's 1122 Winston. It's at a beautiful South Euclid. It's building all new schools, and it went under contract at $66,000. And this house has a brand new roof. Wow. Furnace, hot water tank, electrical throughout, garage, in basically brand new condition. And we have it under contract at $66,000. We have 3 sales on the same street that all sold within the last 6 months at $94,000.
My goodness, that's $30,000 in built-in equity.
Yeah, no, that's all public information. I mean, anyone can, you know, call our office and I'll give them that information. Those are all located on the same street and all just sold recently. And of course, they're in good condition. They also have new furnaces, new roofs, new hot water tanks, etc. But that's the kind of equity you're getting when you buy with us. You know, you're buying in very conservative areas with equity and decent cash flow as well. Now,
do you assist in procuring a tenant as well?
Well, we do. We actually own a management company, and I think, you know, that's really important when you're investing with, you know, out of state or out of the country.
Yes.
You know, I hear so many people that invest in properties, and the seller that they bought from did not own a management company. They just subbed it out to someone else. I think that's a big red flag. I think, you know, in this business, the relationship starts when we sell the house.
Yes.
from the management because that's so important. And I think that's often overlooked. They look just at the number
right.
of what they're going to pay and what it looks like on paper, and that's it. But really, the management is so critical. And yes, we do have our own management company. It's all in-house, and we screen our tenants thoroughly. So much so that we do a background check. We visit the property each and every month. We do an exterior inspection. We call 2 landlords back. We actually, before we have a tenant move in, we go to the previous, house that they're living in to see if, that it's not destroyed, that they're,
right.
They're clean people. So just little things like that make a big difference.
I like how you mentioned something right now, Sean, that you mentioned the relationship starts when they purchase the property. And, it's so refreshing to hear that from you and from a turnkey provider, because a lot of other companies are only interested in the sales aspect of it. And once they sell the property, they kind of say, okay, well, thanks a lot, and call us when you're ready for your next deal, and Harvey will take care of you from now on, and then you never hear from them again. And it's so nice that you have an attitude that, no, the relationship with our clients are going to start from the time they buy the property. And I just wanted to point that out and commend you for that.
Well, I mean, it's, and even just from a business standpoint, most of my investors, Linda, they buy more than one property.
Right.
In the beginning, they buy one, but, ultimately they'll buy more than one because they're getting the results I told them they would get.
Yes.
And that's key. That's important for us to, and it makes, I think it makes it a lot easier for a management perspective if you're buying in better areas as well.
Yes, yeah.
You could be the best manager in the world. It doesn't matter if you're buying in the ghettos. It doesn't. You cannot manage those places. I don't care how good you are.
Right.
It's almost impossible, and I know because I've done it. And I've learned over the years just buying the better areas. Obviously we're not perfect, but boy, I tell you what, it makes our life a lot easier when we're buying in the better areas, and we're getting it. It's just a completely different clientele that we're dealing with, and it's it's refreshing, and we get the results that we tell people they're going to get. So,
well, how can our listeners find out more? How can they find out more about the properties that you have?
Well, they can go to our website, and that'll direct them, directly to my email address. They can pick up the phone. I have my phones on the website as well. They can call me directly, myself or Wayne, and we'll give more information.
And just to let you guys know, the website is www.buyholdrent.com. That's buyholdrent.com. And I really like the name of your URL name, the name of your website, Sean, because you're focusing on holding the property, not flipping, and we all know that the wealth is in the holding. Isn't that right?
Oh, absolutely. And moreover than that, I mean, when you're buying with us, you're buying with instant equity. I gave an example of that house on Winston. Not every house is going to have $20,000, $30,000 worth of equity, but every house is going to have $10,000 worth of equity. And when you purchase with us, you're purchasing with instant equity. So you have a built-in equity strategy, not to mention, appreciation, hopefully. Obviously, we can't predict the future, but I would imagine property values will go up within the next, 5 to 10 years. So that's why, we have an emphasis on, yes, holding the property.
Yeah. Now, what advice do you have for those of us who want to get started in purchasing rentals in Ohio, in Cleveland?
I would highly, highly recommend, obviously, contacting me, but taking the time, even if you only have, I know everyone has a busy schedule, but if you only have, a day, it's a Saturday or Sunday, I work 7 days a week, fly into the city, get a proper tour. Our tour, it takes about 8 hours. We're out there all day. And I think you really get a feel for, where we invest. Your eyes don't lie. I can tell you how wonderful Cleveland is till I'm blue in the face. But really, till you see for yourself,
Right.
It's really hard to get a grasp on it. And after our tour, I mean, there's a ton of new construction. Cleveland's booming, and we're buying in great areas, so it really sells itself. But that's I think I would highly recommend for, it's a large investment. If you're spending $55,000, $60,000 on a house,
Right.
Take the time to fly into the city and see for yourself, where you're investing and what you're investing in.
Absolutely, and it'll give you such a pride of ownership to see the property. I mean, there's nothing quite like touching the property that you're going to be buying. It's the best feeling in the world.
And that too, but I think it's really important driving down that street and seeing every home
Right.
with, flowers in front and neighbors that are taking care of their property. And really, not just driving down that one street and driving out, but, whether you buy in Cleveland or anywhere else, you should be able to drive around that neighborhood. Just pick a street, and every street should look pretty much the same. You don't want to buy, this is the nicest street in a bad neighborhood. No, that's not good.
Right,
You want the neighborhood to be consistent.
Absolutely.
Because if it's not, you're just buying headaches.
Right. Wow,
and that's what we offer in Cleveland. In the areas we buy, they have what's called a point of sale. So, for instance, when I buy a house, Linda, if I spend, say, $30,000 on a house,
yes,
the city will say, guess what? It's going to cost you, per our figures, it's going to cost you $20,000 to rehab this house. I have to put, not only do I pay cash $30,000 for the house, then I have to put an additional $20,000 in escrow with the city.
Mm-hmm.
I do not get that money back, nor could I use it for the rehab until I am finished, with the house, and they inspect it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good for us in two facets that, although it does tie up a lot of money, it keeps a lot of, shady investors out. And it keeps the property values up because you cannot drive down any street any city that we purchase in and see a board-up window. It's non-existent because you have so much money tied up in a house, and you really don't get it back till it's completed, until the city signs off on it. So it's, it's tough tying up all that money, but it's definitely, in the end, it's great for the, to the end investor because you're definitely buying in a nice, stable area.
Absolutely. And tell us a little bit about where your clients are coming from. I know that you have a lot of clients from the West Coast. Now you're also attracting clients from, around the world, really, Australia, New Zealand. Can you talk a little bit about where your investors are coming from?
We have them basically from all over the world. We have, quite a bit, obviously, from, Silicon Valley and L.A., Orange County, Canada. But we also have them, believe it or not, just small pockets around the country, Idaho, Kansas, Miami. But I do have a lot of investors from Australia, New Zealand. I'm Irish, so I have, a lot of people from Ireland as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, we literally do. We have them all over the world. China's a big market. We're having people reach out to us from the Middle East now. So
that's so exciting. What a small world it's getting to be.
Well, it's becoming smaller, and I think as word gets out that there's good affiliates out there that are that aren't sharks, that are offering good realistic returns on investment property. I think it's going to get smaller and smaller.
Well, that's wonderful, and I'm so happy that people from around the world are taking notice of Cleveland, Ohio. But at the same time, let's try and get as many people from the U.S. to buy properties in Cleveland because, let's try and keep the properties in-house and try and get the wealth back in the U.S., right?
Absolutely, and I think, actually that's, my sales, and obviously from Australia, I do have a lot of sales from Australia, New Zealand, and overseas, but some of my best sales are from people from, SoCal.
Right.
I think a lot of U.S., investors have a negative connotation of Cleveland. So when they fly in, they're like, okay, the prices are great. It looks great on paper, but, the big, but.
Right.
I'm sure I'm going to fly in this city. It's I just want to leave as quickly as possible. Then when they get in, it's completely the opposite. There's so much that Cleveland offers, and they're just absolutely blown away. You
wow.
know, so those are actually pretty easy sales for me, believe it or not, because they come in with a negative connotation. When they leave, they're pleasantly surprised. So not too many people realize that Cleveland has the second largest live theater district in the nation besides Broadway in Manhattan.
Wow, no, I didn't know that.
And the list goes on, but I won't bore you with those facts. But that's when you come into Cleveland, a lot of people, I think, they hear Cleveland has a mistake on the lake. A river caught fire 60 years ago. That was 60 years ago. So it's completely different now. But I think that's what Cleveland's remembered as. So it's a hurdle we have to get over. But I think, and that's what I really recommend people fly into the city and see what we have to offer in person and see our management staff, our offices, and more important, where we're buying, because it really does sell itself.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the opportunities that you have available. I know that you have single-family investments available, but you also have commercial and multifamily as well, right?
Yeah, we do a lot of, not a lot, we probably do about, 6 a year, larger commercial blocks, larger meaning like, anywhere from 15 to 50 unit apartment blocks.
Okay.
I currently have about 4 going on right now, and those offer great returns. So, we do a lot of larger apartment blocks, so that's an avenue for, it's a little bit, obviously more money, but on the flip side of those, a lot of those blocks I actually JV on because it is so much money, and I found out I had purchased probably about 4 or 5 of those, and I thought I would be able to sell them no problem, but I found out not too many people have, $600,000-$700,000 in cash laying around. So just by happenstance, I end up JVing, and it's turned out great for me and my partners, and I've been doing it ever since. So.
Oh, well, that's wonderful.
So that's an option, and that gives somebody a security blanket because it's such a large investment, knowing that I have skin in the game as well.
Yes. Well,
so we do quite a few larger apartment blocks, and what we do with those, Linda, is that a lot of times I'll separately meter everything, so it kind of takes a lot of those numbers out of the equation, that you know basically what you're going to get every month.
Well, I really like 4-unit properties. I think they're wonderful for cash flow. That's one of my personal favorite investments. What are they going for in Cleveland, Sean?
It depends. I have one right now with 30 units that's that's going for $800,000. It's directly across the street from a hospital. Completely remodeled. Basically got it to everything's brand new furnaces, roof, windows. In just great condition. 2 bedrooms. Every unit rents for $650 a month.
That's great rent.
Yeah. But it varies. Obviously that's a 30 unit, but I have a 12 unit in Cleveland Heights, which is a very nice suburb close to the Cleveland Clinic, and that's going for $310,000. So it varies.
Well, wow, coming from California, those prices are outstanding.
Yeah, they sound too good to be true, but believe it or not, they're true. And these are in very good areas. And I tell people, please fly in and see what we're buying. And really, it's we're not buying in subprime areas. These are fantastic owner-occupied areas.
I really like your Yellowstone Cleveland Heights property. Oh, this one's adorable too. The one on Layton, Bedford. Yeah,
Layton just went under contract actually, and that we had listed at an investor's price for $85,000. I put it. My realtor called me, said, "You just give me 3 weeks, put it on the market, the MLS, the open market." We sold it within 2 days.
Wow,
it's under contract at $95,000, not $85,000.
Wow,
that's
on
the
a
open
great
market.
property.
Probably could have got more. Literally went under contract in 2 days. So
it's adorable.
Yeah, it's a very nice house. Yeah.
And it's 5 bedrooms, huh? 3 bath. Wow, it doesn't even look that large. It's defeating
it has a
from
bump
the
out.
front.
The dormer in the back is bumped out, so it's actually a really large home. The closets are larger than some bedrooms.
Wow. Very nice property.
And the one on Yellowstone is actually beautiful.
Oh, I love the tile work you did.
Real marble, jacuzzi tub.
Wow.
Granite counters, all ceramic floors, custom fireplace. Absolutely beautiful.
The floors in that kitchen are gorgeous, Sean.
Yes,
just
thank
really
you. Yeah,
nice
it's
job.
an absolutely beautiful house, and it's right down the street from the Cleveland Clinic. So, yeah, it's a great area.
Perfect. That's a very nice property. Wonderful. Well, do you have anything you'd like to add before we open it up for questions?
No, I just really, I think I really recommend people to, whether you buy in Cleveland or you buy, anywhere in the country, I just think it's so important to really fly into the city that, even if it's just for a day and really see, what you're buying in there,
right.
and going to areas not necessarily at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, you kind of want to drive it. If you're interested in a particular house, maybe, rent a car and drive there in the evening, and that really gives you a good indication of where you're buying.
Wow, that's a great tip.
Yeah, I think it's easy for for investors like myself to take you down a street, any street, and yeah, this looks good, but you really get a feel, I think, in the evenings what kind of neighborhood you're buying, and those are just little things like that I think make a big difference. But I guess I would recommend really going to the city you're going to buy in.
Absolutely.
Unless unless you had a representative that's already been there that you trust. Other than that, really fly into the city.
Absolutely. I have never purchased a home sight unseen, and I never will. I mean, part of the fun is actually, seeing what you're buying. It's the thrill of the hunt and finding that wonderful property and going to the area and getting to know the people and your manager and the city. I mean, that's part of the fun of being an investor. So I don't know why anybody would want to bypass that. That's, so important. It's a crucial step.
Well, they do, and I hear horror stories every day. So we have people call our management office, at least a couple of times a week asking us to manage properties, and they're in areas that we won't even drive into. And you feel bad because they lost a ton of money and they're out of state or overseas, but, unfortunately, they should have done it, their due diligence.
No, right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, great. Is Wayne available on the line, or?
Yeah, hi. We actually got some really good questions from some of the attendees, and I'll just kind of go one at a time. And looks like, Sean, you're going to be on the hook for all these, so Linda, you can take a little break here. But the first investor must be somewhat familiar with Cleveland and Northeast Ohio. He was asking, what are the best areas in Northeast Ohio for investment properties?
Well, I would say the areas we buy in. That, of course, we stay out of the city proper for the most part, although I do have, select few of apartment buildings, which I own a part of, and they're pretty close to the Cleveland Clinic or in select neighborhoods. But for the most part, we only buy in owner-occupied areas, and those are only in the suburbs, meaning suburbs are separate cities from the city of Cleveland. They have their own police, fire, council, mayor, so they're completely separate cities. The cities we purchase in Euclid, South Euclid, Cleveland Heights, Maple Heights, Bedford Heights. We have a select group of cities that we purchase in Parma Heights. Bayville is getting a little bit expensive, but those are some select areas we purchase in.
Okay, great. And then we had another question here from another investor. They were asking about what sort of tenant problems are expected in those rental properties in Cleveland. I mean, I think you kind of touched on it a bit that, hey, if you are buying in select areas and you're properly screening your tenants, that you can address that. But maybe you can share a little bit more on that.
I can expound on that. I mean, really, just buying it just alleviates so many problems buying in the right areas. You just get a totally different clientele of tenants. Obviously, you still have to screen the tenants. We do a thorough screening. One of the tricks of the trade is that we always call at least 2 landlords back, because if it's a bad tenant, you call the most recent landlord, he's going to tell you anything to get him out. It's kind of common sense, but that's something we do. We also drive out to where they currently live just to see how they keep up on their property. And then obviously we do our, credit checks and, core checks and things like that. But I think just, simple things like that are pretty important, and they seem to work for us.
Okay, and then another question was, looks like, I'm assuming about Northeast Ohio in general. They were asking about what the appreciation rate has been recently.
Well, Cleveland's pretty stable in general, but appreciation in the areas we're buying is at currently about, anywhere from 3 to 5%. And as I mentioned before, we're selling houses with equity. And again, that's all public information. So, anyone can feel free to call me, call our office, and I will show you actual sales that just happened that are recent that sold for much, much more than we're wholesaling our properties for. So again, that's public information. We're not trying to hide anything. It is what it is. So, but typically in Cleveland, it's a lot different from Silicon Valley, for instance, where you were getting 20, 30% a year. Cleveland's just a very stable market. We 3 to 5% a year, even in good times, is about average. So again, it's not an area you're going to buy and expect to get 30% a year. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of equity now because we're in a down market and we're in a recession and we're going through a foreclosure crisis. But, once the market corrects itself, I think you can expect about 3 to 5% a year. Although the clinic and, the medical market, it's blowing out, so who knows, it might be much better than that, but that's pretty typical.
Yeah, and then also just to add on that, if you go to our website, the buyholdrent.com, and click on any of the properties, we do list at least 3, if not 4, recent comps going back in, within the last 6 months that kind of demonstrate. We actually have it plotted on a map, so it's not a matter of us, kind of cherry picking the area of a high sale. It's truly within within less than a mile of the home for sale. And then another question here, on average, how long does it take to unload a rental single-family home? I'm assuming this is probably from an investor who's maybe run into this issue in another market.
Well, you know what? Honestly, I don't have any sellers that are trying to sell, so I don't know, but I would gather if you're selling a house with equity, it should be pretty easy to sell. I just gave 2 examples, actually, of homes that I put on the MLS through my realtor that sold within a week. We have one on East 275th that just sold, and literally you can go on I could print out the MLS sheet and it'll show you how long it's been on the market. It was literally on the market less than a week, and it went under contract. And I have the home on Layton as well. That went under contract within 2 days. So, again, it shouldn't take long to sell the homes just based on that.
Very good. I think that was the end of the questions. If anybody has any additional questions or anything, they can obviously email us. We'll be sending out a link to this webinar, as well as some additional information on some of our current properties. A number of you have asked for that. So that information is forthcoming. Linda and Sean, appreciate both of you taking some time and sharing this information to us, and appreciate everyone taking some time out of their evening to partake in this. Hopefully it was of value to everyone, and we look forward to speaking with you all again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a nice
evening,
everybody.
Your time. Thanks, Linda.
Bye-bye.
Good evening.